In a world that's buzzing with constant notifications and just so much pressure, finding a moment of real quiet can feel almost impossible. A lot of us are struggling with anxiety and depression, and we're all looking for answers. So today, we're going to explore a path to mental well-being that's both timeless and surprisingly modern, merging ancient spiritual wisdom with the insights of psychology. Let's dive right in.
So to really get the scale of what we're talking about, just look at this number. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in every 8 people on this planet is living with a mental health condition. That's over 1 billion people. This isn't some niche problem. It's a huge part of our shared human experience right now. And it's easy to point fingers, right? We can blame social media or financial stress or just plain loneliness. And yeah, all of that definitely plays a part. But what if the real root cause is something deeper? The sources we're looking at today suggest that this widespread unease really comes from a kind of fundamental disconnection, a spiritual void that no amount of success or stuff can ever really fill.
Okay, so let's frame the problem like this. The core idea here is that the human soul has a source, a connection it's meant to have. And when that connection gets weak or fuzzy, we experience this kind of spiritual static. It's a state of inner unrest, a feeling of being constricted. This verse from the Quran really lays out the central idea for us. It draws a direct line between our spiritual state and our mental well-being. And this isn't about some kind of punishment. It's more of a natural consequence, It's like a plant that's been cut off from sunlight and water. Of course it's going to wilt. The idea is that the absence of this spiritual connection, this remembrance, leads to a life that just feels tight and narrow.
So, to navigate this inner world, you need a map, and the Quran actually provides a psychological framework for understanding the self, or what it calls the Nafs. Think of it as a model for our consciousness, laying out a whole journey of growth and transformation. Let's break down what that looks like.
The journey to inner peace, from this perspective, is all about moving through these 3 states. First, you've got the impulsive self, which is driven by our raw desires and wants, that instant gratification. Then we develop the self-reproaching self, and this is basically your conscience kicking in. That voice of regret that pushes you to be better. It's a really crucial stage of self-awareness. The ultimate goal, the final destination, is to reach the peaceful self, a state of just deep, profound tranquility and contentment, where you feel aligned with your true purpose.
Okay, so if that's the map of our inner world, what are the tools we need to actually make the journey? Well, the Quran doesn't just point out the problem. It offers a whole toolkit of practical, spiritual practices designed to help us move from that state of inner turmoil to one of peace.
Here are the 4 big ones, the foundational tools. We have Dhikr, which is remembrance. We have Sabr and Salah, which are patience and prayer. There's Tawakkul, or this profound trust. And finally, Tawbah, which means repentance. Each one of these is designed to target a specific part of our inner struggle.
Let's start with Dhikr. This is the simple, powerful act of consciously bringing God into your mind and heart. Now, this is where things get really fascinating, because this is where ancient practice and modern science totally line up. Studies have actually shown that meditative practices, like Dhikr, can activate our body's rest and digest system. This can physically lower the stress hormone cortisol and calm down the amygdala, which is the brain's fear center. So think about that. This is both a spiritual connection and a physiological reset.
So how does this framework tackle something like anxiety? Well, at its core, anxiety is a fear of the future, right? It's those endless what-ifs that just race through our minds. The Quranic answer to this is Tawakkul. This is a kind of radical trust. It's the practice of doing your absolute best, preparing as much as you can, and then entrusting the final outcome to God. It's not about being passive. It's about freeing yourself from the paralyzing weight of worrying about things that are ultimately out of your control.
And what about depression? Well, that's often rooted in the past, carrying the heavy burden of regrets, mistakes, and sorrows. The tool for this is Tawbah, or repentance. Now, this isn't about shame or wallowing in guilt. It's an active process. It's about acknowledging a mistake, turning away from it, and turning back to God with hope. It's like an emotional and spiritual cleanse that lets you finally put down the baggage of the past and get a fresh start.
Okay, now this is where it gets really, really cool. We've hinted at it, but let's just look directly at how this 1,400-year-old wisdom lines up almost perfectly with one of today's most effective therapeutic methods, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. The parallels here are just wow. CBT teaches you to identify and challenge your negative thoughts, while the Quranic approach tells you to seek refuge from negative whispers and replace them with dhikr. CBT uses thought reframing to change your perspective. The concept of tawakkul literally reframes your entire life's challenges as part of a bigger, divine plan. The modern practice of mindfulness, it's mirrored in the focus and presence you need for the 5 daily prayers. And the hugely popular tool of gratitude journaling has a direct counterpart in the spiritual practice of shukr, which is all about consciously expressing thanks. It's amazing.
And hey, this convergence isn't just a nice theory. A 2024 study in the Journal of Religion and Health found that therapies that integrate these kinds of faith-based principles could be up to 40% more effective than just traditional CBT on its own. And why is that? Well, probably because they don't just work on your thoughts, they also address the needs of the human spirit, offering a much more holistic way to heal.
So all of this sounds really powerful, but the big question is, how do you actually start? Where do you begin? The key is to just move from theory to practice with small, consistent, and totally manageable steps. Let's lay out a simple routine you could literally start today. Look, you could start with just 10 minutes of mindful reading, really thinking about what the words mean to you. You could build a few minutes of remembrance or dhikr into your daily commute or just a quiet moment at home. Try a gratitude journal. Physically writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day actually retrains your brain to look for the good. And finally, try heartfelt supplication or dua. This is just talking to God openly about your fears and your hopes. It is one of the most powerful forms of emotional release there is.
At the end of the day, every one of these steps on this path is leading to one destination. It's not about trying to have a life that's free from problems. That's impossible. It's about building a core of unshakable inner peace inside you that can weather any storm. It's that peaceful self we were talking about earlier.
So, what's the final takeaway from all this? Honestly, it might be best summarized by this incredibly short but profound verse. So flee to Allah. It suggests that in all our moments of anxiety and sorrow and confusion, the ultimate refuge, the truest sanctuary for the human heart, isn't found in trying to escape our reality, but in turning back towards our spiritual source. And the question that leaves us with is, what does that journey back look like for you?